Hi, folks. Welcome to Module 4, entitled Finding Calm Amid the Storm, Intrapersonal Conflict Skills Management, or Conflict Management Skills, rather. I really hope this is a good module for y'all. In it, I've shared some of the things that have been most helpful to me as I've navigated conflict, and I really do think that finding ways to feel all right, to feel safe and whole and loved and respected while we are in the middle of conflict is one of the most important things we can do, because conflict often requires a great deal of creativity, um, not to mention courage. And when we're panicked and stressed and frightened, um, and when we're in fight or flight mode trying to survive, we are often not able to be creative and courageous and curious in the ways that are required to find resolution and transformation to difficult conflicts. And we're really just focusing on personal well-being. How do you navigate the fact that conflicts rarely transpire over the course of one conversation? Like, you all probably know this from your experience of work and school and life and family. Often conflicts start with one thing that is kind of troubling and you try to ignore it. And maybe you try to say something about it, maybe you don't, but it bubbles up again this time and it feels a little worse, and you go through the same cycle and things until finally you do something stark to address it, something pretty proactive. Maybe that works and maybe it doesn't. And then, and either you resolve the conflict fully and the relationship develops and changes and more trust is built, or you kind of muddle through, but it's always a sore spot, or it devolves and gets bigger and worse, and the stakes get higher. Any number of things can happen. But my point is, regardless of whether the conflict builds, sustains, or corrodes trust, regardless of whether you resolve it or transform it, conflict takes a long time. And we can't really afford to be stressed out and unwell for as long as conflict takes. There's too high a toll on our bodies, as you'll hear more about in a future reading and in a future video. So we need to find ways to feel okay, to feel safe and calm over the course of the conflict. And if y'all don't get anything else from this course and you just get those things, I will consider it a success, although I certainly hope you get some other things. But you can address the stress of conflict even when the stressor, the external factors that even if the conflict itself endures. And I hope that you pick up on some of those strategies over the course of this module. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Good luck with the worksheet, and you'll see me again momentarily.